Fury, Usyk, AJ, who would you most want to fight and why?
I'll say AJ. Reason being, because I've done sparring with him in the past, and I know what he's like.
Yeah. What is he like?
Nah, he's good, and I respect him, but I'll say Anthony Joshua.
Okay.
I don't know what Usyk's like.
He's very good as well. Stephen, let's just start maybe with your life. What part of London did you grow up in, and what kind of environment was it?
Yeah. So I grew up in an estate called Harts Lane Estate. The boroughs Barking and Dagenham is one of the most deprived London boroughs in the UK. And it's got the most poverty. And it's growing up in Harts Lane. It's like the culture was crime. The culture was making money through crime. And it was a very contagious culture.
Yeah.
Everyone growing up in my community, we felt like the only way to be successful was through selling drugs, through robberies, through like any means necessary. And growing up with that kind of environment, it shapes like your decisions.
I mean, living in a city like London, you can be literally in one street and 2 streets up. You can have houses going for £1 million, and then you can have an estate like yours, not too far away. So when you speak of poverty, what do you mean by that? What was your life like when you speak about poverty?
When I talk about poverty, I'm talking about access to opportunities, access to things that a more affluent community will have on a normal kind of basis. So, I remember the basketball court in my hood, was all broken. Like the hoop was bent, and that was normal. And when you go to other boroughs, if you go somewhere like much more affluent, you've got horse riding stables that young people can just, if they want to do horse riding, they can do horse riding. If they want to do football, they've got a nice 5G pitch they can go and do it on. But I remember, like, in my community, like, it weren't even safe to go out at night and do football. Like, your mum wants you back home. So it's like, when I talk about poverty, I'm talking about the access of opportunities, that you're able to tap into, and it being readily available.
And then what would you say, you went from poverty straight to crime. What's the link between those two things in your experience growing up on that estate?
Everyone wants to kind of feel a sense of confidence, feel a sense of identity, and most importantly, purpose. And a lot of young people in more affluent areas, they can easily feel that sense of confidence, identity, purpose through like having access to horse riding, beautiful gyms, like beautiful extracurricular activities, because it's all available. So they'll find purpose in football, they'll find purpose in piano lessons, but in the hood, when that stuff is not readily available, you're finding purpose and confidence and identity in the wrong things, and what's more readily available in the hood, and that's where it's so easy, to just really slip into that lifestyle. You make money for the first time, through selling drugs. Automatically you've got confidence, automatically you've got purpose, and you feel like, wow, I've just been rewarded here, as opposed to if you now were able to kind of learn confidence through like a sport or learn confidence through like an extracurricular activity that's readily available to you, so that's where the link between poverty and crime, I personally feel, it is so strong in inner city communities.
Yeah. We were chatting a little bit earlier, Stephen, and you were just talking about, even now, some of the scars that you still have because of that upbringing. When you hear kids running or that, do you want to just give us a little window into that?
Yeah, every time I see like young people running or if I hear shouting, it's almost like, I would say, post-traumatic stress disorder that I feel that I've picked up, in terms of, I've seen when a lot of young people are running, I've always identified that as someone's getting stabbed, and they didn't make it and they're dead, or when there's shouting going on, I've always identified it as a gunshot has gone off and someone's been hit, and it's like, so every time I'm always on the edge when I see like anything chaotic going on around me, and I always want to make sure that everything's okay, like, and that's what I've kind of experienced growing up, seeing like people around me like getting stabbed, seeing people around me like, not making it, and it's something I've seen so many young people, in the community that have lost their lives, through what's going on with knife crime, so yeah, like I don't like talking on the issue of knife crime because it's real, it's painful, like I've really seen mums lost their sons, and I've really seen, when you hear a mum scream when her son's life's gone, like it's painful, and so that's why I'm so passionate about really seeing young people find purpose and exit this lifestyle. For me personally, like I grew up in a community where that was so prevalent, and I got kicked out of school. I got told never come back to my school. That was the last conversation I had with my head teacher. I never had confidence in myself. I never believed in myself. I didn't have identity, so I found confidence through doing stupid things, through getting into trouble, through like really trying to, I was being fake. I was fake, and I found confidence through doing the wrong things consistently, and then one thing led to another, and before I knew it, like I was really like deep in the lifestyle that I was living. I remember at the age of 15, like, I thought I wanted to, like, I really thought like I wanted to like box at the time because my dad introduced me to boxing at 15. And I remember having my rucksack, and I had my boxing gloves in there, I had my gum shields and everything in there. And I remember, I actually remember having my rucksack and saying, I'm not doing this. I want to do the roads. I want to be involved in like making money. And I put my rucksack in my attic in my house, and yeah, that was it. I was involved in that lifestyle, and I felt confident in that lifestyle. It was a false sense of confidence, but I felt confident, and I remember just really living that life and thinking, this is what I'm meant to be doing. This is why I'm here. At the age of 20, I remember my house got raided, and the police came to my house, and they were looking for drugs. They were looking for like all of that stuff. And I remember the police came, raided my house, and I just really was in a real dark place. And my mum kept praying for me, saying, Stephen, like asking God to save her son. And I remember she kept praying for me. And I remember having a dream. I had a dream that I was going to go to prison for murder. And in this dream, God spoke to me and told me, Stephen, this is what the devil's got set up for you. And I see me and my friends, and we're all in the Old Baileys, and we all got life. And I remember seeing myself, I was scared, I was crying. I was like, like, how can I be doing life? I don't want to be doing this, And in the same dream, God spoke to me clearly and said to me, Stephen, if you give your life to me, you come off the streets, I will use you as a role model to many young people across the world. And through your story, young people will be able to change their lives around and come off the streets. And I remember waking up from the dream, and the first person I shared this story was with my mum. I said, Mum, I had this weirdest dream that I was going to go to prison for murder, and then she told me straight away, Stephen, you've got to give your life to the Lord. I said, Mum, I can't be arsed. I don't want to do that right now, like things are going well for me, like I'm making money. I've built up a system where every week I'm picking up money, and I've worked really, really hard to kind of build my confidence and my identity in the new life that I was living, and I remember meeting up with a few of my friends and sharing the dream with them, and they were like to me, Stephen, like, come on, man, you're going crazy, man, like, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean we're going to prison? And I kept telling my people around me that, like, God's speaking to me now, like, he's saying, Stephen, you have to come out of this lifestyle. Otherwise, this is where you're going to end up. So I ended up going to church on a Sunday, City Gates Church, and I remember, like, I've gone to church now, and I went in the right mindset, and when I was there, I was sitting in the back of the service, and the preacher's talking, but I'm just on my phone, disrespecting the environment. Like I've had a spliff in my pocket that I was looking forward to smoke after the service. You know, I weren't present, but then there was someone sitting in front of me, and then he turned around and he was like to me, "Why are you disrespecting the house of God?" And I looked at this guy and I said, "Bro, get out of here, man. You're not a Christian, man. You look worse than me. You've got a tattoo on your neck. You've got a gold tooth. Like, bro, you're probably doing the same thing that I'm doing." And then he shared his story with me, you know, how he gave his life to the Lord and he's come off the streets. And then eventually I kind of opened up to him and shared my story, you know, I shared my dream. And then I ended up saying the sinner's prayer. And when I said the sinner's prayer, it's a prayer that, like, if you say this prayer, God will forgive you of all your sins. This is what he told me. I said, there's no way God can forgive me of all my sins. You know, I've done so much wrong. And then I remember saying this prayer. And as I've said this prayer, I've just started crying. And I've just reset it. It's like almost like I've just come to this world all over again. I've had a brand new chance. And I gave my life to the Lord. And as I've given my life to the Lord, you know, I've really felt like, you know what, I've come back to this world like with a whole new purpose, you know. And I picked up the first thing I did was go back home. I picked up my boxing bag, you know. That was the first thing God told me, I want you to get back into boxing. I picked up my rucksack and it was a lot of dust on it, but I blew it off and I got myself back in the gym. I was overweight, I was 21 stones, you know. And when I literally started doing my journey and reading the word, the first thing I read in the Bible was Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. I said, God, if this is real, like I want to get into boxing, I want to lose weight, you know. And I started boxing. I went to university, London South Bank University, and completely just turned my life around.
You put all that down to the fact that you met Christ.
100%.
Okay.
100%. Like when I met Christ, everything changed for me. You know, everything changed for me. Like I had a new foundation to build my life on.
What did your friends who you'd worked with from your estate, when you told them that you'd become a Christian, what was their response?
A lot of them were kind of thinking that, you know what, Stephen's not actually gonna follow through with this. You know, this is just probably a phase. You know, like a lot of people are telling me, Stephen, you're doing so well, you're making money, you know, things are set up well for you now, you know, like, and I had a few people that were like encouraging me, like, yo, Stephen, if this is what you want to do, this is what you need to do, you know. But what I had to do was distance myself from everyone.
Right.
You know, I had to distance myself. I had to change my whole circle. You know, I had to literally just get rid of.
Literally to survive, in the sense of, for that moment in time, you had to cut yourself off.
I had to distance myself in order to have a whole new perspective on life. Yeah. You know, I had to change like my routine. I had to change my timetable. You know, and for me, like by distancing myself from everyone I was around, you know, that allowed me to now start to like really like work out my relationship with God, understand who God is, you know, and that it was important for me, you know, to have that distance. You know, I started going to the gym. One of my good mates, Anthony Yard, we started boxing together like quite regularly every day, you know, and 2 years after having that dream, you know, I ended up competing for the British Amateur Boxing Championships, you know, and I ended up winning gold in it. Wow. You know, and I was on the back page of the newspapers for winning gold. And on the same newspaper was 4 of my mates, they got life in prison for murder, you know, and that really struck a real big chord in me and made me realize that if I didn't respond to that dream, you know, I could have been there too. Yeah. You know, if I didn't give my life to the Lord when I did, I could have been there, you know. So my last year of university, I studied business admin. That was my degree at London South Bank University. Bearing in mind, when I went to London South Bank for enrollment day, I went for enrollment. They said to me, "Where's your UCAS points?" And I said, "What's UCAS points?" I don't know what. It was a Monday I went there, Tuesday I went there. Every day I kept going there till Friday. Like one of the senior member of staff came out and said, "You can't study at this uni. You have no UCAS points." And I told them, listen, you don't understand, I need to study business. I need to study business. And I ended up going to my last year, my final year, and I ended up doing my dissertation on setting up my own boxing academy that can help young people come off the streets and out of gangs. And I came up with the thesis title was When Passion Meets Purpose, preparing for entrepreneurial breakthrough. And the passion was boxing. I loved boxing. But my purpose was getting kids off the streets and out of gangs. And I came up with the conclusion, P plus P equals M. Purpose plus passion equals meaning. And I ended up graduating with a first class for my dissertation, and my university. All right, cool. So fast forward, after graduating and having my dissertation title, my university actually gave me £1,200 to go out and do a pilot study. So we've done a pilot study in August 2013. And fast forward now, Box Up Crime has been running now for the last 9 years. But my university reached back out to me and said to me, Stephen, as a result of the work you've been doing for the last 9 years, and it's been a 10-year research project, we want to give you an honorary doctorate. So,
Outstanding, mate. Outstanding. So let's talk about Box Up Crime now. In London, 74% of all homicides were caused by knives or sharp implements in 2021, a 15.6% increase from 2020, which has been sadly increasing over the last 10 years. And a large proportion of those are gang-related. Figures from the Met Police show that a peak was reached in July 2020 with 19 murders occurring in 1 month from knife crime. And tragically, this is not only a problem consigned to London alone. In Manchester, knife crime has gone up 200% in the last 2 years. So what is it that keeps young people in those gangs? What is it that young people see in a leader within that culture that they aspire to?
Like I was saying before, everyone's looking for purpose. Everyone's looking for identity. Everyone's looking for confidence, belonging, and what young people nowadays are finding, they're finding it in these places where, yes, it's the wrong places, but they're finding it there. They're finding belonging there. They're finding purpose. They've got a purpose now. They're finding identity there, and it's why I say gangs. Yes, gangs is the term that has been used to define it, but gangs define a group of people. Yeah. But there's a lot of individuals involved in this. Mm-hmm. There's individual mindsets, so it's not just gangs as a definition to sum up the whole thing, but it's a subculture. And that subculture is defined as roads, and you must have heard of the term, I'm a roadman, but a lot of young people.
I haven't.
So you hear young people say, I'm a roadman, or I'm on road, or I want to get off road, or I hate road, or I want to make money.
What do they mean by that?
So road is basically the context that they describe what they're in, the situation that they're in. Mm-hmm. When I turned my life around and I gave my life to the Lord, I didn't say I left the gang. I said I came off road.
Okay.
I came off road. And a lot of people that are living within this predicament, they see themselves as being on road. I'm on road, and road is a negative subculture.
What are the negative things about it?
Everything about roads is negative. If you're 2 seconds near the lifestyle, you're going to get affected by it. And with roads now, you've got everyone's trying to shape the culture of roads. Everyone's contributing to the culture of roads. If you sell drugs, you're on road. If you do robberies, you're on road. If you've got problems with other people and you've got beef with other people, you're on road.
What do you mean by beef?
If you've got a problem, if you've got an altercation with another individual, and you're trying to kill him or you're trying to stab him, you're on road. Yeah. And this is the context that young people are living in today. Not even just young people, old people as well. You know, and the reason why I say that this is such a negative culture, you know, because this culture is designed to kill. This culture is not, no one flourishes on road. There's a lot of there's a lot of fake pictures painted in music videos to show the road life making sense. To show if you're on road, you can get a nice car, you can get a nice house, you can get nice clothes. But it's all a dream that we got sold. And so many young people are attracted to this dream that the devil sold them. Because the devil is very focused on trying to take as many kids as he can. The devil is not doing this just for fun. He's doing this because every time a young person dies, where's that young person going? And the devil's quickly trying to just exterminate a generation, you know, and this is why I talk about the negative culture of roads. You know, so many things influences this culture, music, you know, like you if you hear some of the music that's out there, if you just break down the lyrics, I go on the up block and I'm looking for a pagan, I'm going to drop him. You don't, like, you wouldn't know what that meant. Yeah. But I'm going on the enemies, I'm going to someone I don't like, I'm going to his community, I'm looking for him, I'm going to kill him. But then now you've got kids in year 7, you've got kids in year 6, you've got kids in year 5 that are listening to this music and they love it. You know what I mean? But what they don't realize is that they're introducing themselves to this culture. Yeah. And then eventually what happens is you start reenacting what you're listening to. You know, and that's what we're dealing with right now today. We're dealing with a culture that has so many influences on it, you know, and is all a strategy from hell to exterminate a generation.
Yeah. A report by British MP Sean Berry highlights the cuts to youth services over the last 10 years. So from 2011 to 2021, around £36 million has been cut from annual youth budgets. 600 full-time youth workers jobs have been cut by London councils, and over 130 youth centres have been shut down. The average budget for youth services in 2011-12 was 2.6 million. In 2021, it's 1.1 million. And tragically, amazingly, the steepest cuts are in boroughs like Newham, 81%. Now, Box Up Crime is seeking to answer those questions and make a difference.
So Box Up Crime, our motto is rebuilding misguided dreams. You know, rebuilding misguided dreams. And every young person has a dream, you know, but due to poverty, due to crime, due to decisions that was made, due to areas that they live in, that dream of being a football player or being a fireman, you know, when they're in year 7, like when you talk to them in year 11, they want to be a shotter. They want to be a drug dealer. Mm-hmm. You know, what happened to that dream? That dream got misguided. Mm-hmm. You know, so that's what we stand for, rebuilding misguided dreams. And we've added to that mission statement, not just rebuilding misguided dreams, but also turning dreams into futures. You know, and so how we've underpinned Box Up in what we do, we've looked at 5 pillars. Boxing, you know, boxing is a beautiful sport that has beautiful discipline. You know, music.
Let's just start with boxing then. I mean, Dylan White, who's a famous boxer, he said by the time he was 15, he'd been stabbed twice and shot once. And he said, if I hadn't got into boxing by the age of 21, I'd have either been doing life or I'd have been dead. Mm. So let's picture a 16-year-old Dylan White comes into your boxing club. What is the difference between the culture he's come from, that you've described, and the boxing club that you're running in Ilford?
And Barking and Dagenham. Yeah. So the culture we've established at Box Up is a culture of discipline, you know, integrity, you know, faith, relationship, you know, community, leadership, passion, you know, and this culture that we've established in Box Up is contagious. You know, like as soon as young people walk in, you know, automatically we're bringing out the leader within them. You know, like, because a lot of these kids that are on the roads right now, they've got natural leadership. They know how to command a group of people. They know how to lead a group of people. Mm-hmm. They know how to motivate a group of people to go and do a mad situation. Yeah. That's leadership. Yeah. You know, but that leadership is so, like, is unmanaged, you know, and it's chaotic. So when they come into Box Up, they come into a structured environment where we can actually turn that leadership into something that can actually one day earn you an award, one day put you on the papers, one day make you like support your family, you know. And we've seen so many young people that have walked through the doors of Box Up that have been completely like they were living a real crazy lifestyle. Like I'm talking about. There's one young person in particular, like this kid was selling drugs 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, you know, every day. Like I'll drive past him, he's just there, like this, like no purpose. And he's come on the journey with us. And now that kid's found and identified a passion. You know, now he's doing so well. He's getting interviews left, right, and center. I asked him how he transitioned. You know, another young person that's working with us at Box Up, he came when he was 12 years old. The kid's now national champion, you know, and we've just seen stories of so many young people, you know, that have been able to transition into like positivity. You know, we've, and not only that, is giving young people a purpose, you know, giving them an opportunity to employment. You know, we employ so many young people at Box Up, you know, so a lot of the young people that walk through our doors, you know, we train them up, you know, and then we give them a job, you know, and that's one of the things that we've been able to really see. You know, like young people like benefit from just having the opportunity to become a leader.
Yeah. Jordan Peterson, and he went to a boxing club in Manchester. And he said the first thing he walked in, instantly there were things around saying, these are the rules. Suddenly there was trainers, and they clearly were the leaders who ran the show. And he made this comment, he said, basically, it was a gang, but it was a good gang. Do you think, is that one way that people can see it? They're basically coming from a gang or a culture, let's say, that's very negative, to come into a gang, a culture that's the complete opposite.
Well, at our boxing gym, at Box Up, you know, we look at the term gang, you know, and I'll redefine everything. I like to redefine things, redefine situations. And we now say, gang, get a new goal. Get a new goal, gang. You know, so when people come to Box Up, they're getting a new goal. You know, like, so they may have had a goal to go and look for the people that they got problems with and go and kill them or go and sell drugs, or that was their goal previously. But when they walk through our doors, they get a new goal, and that new goal is to find life, it's to find fulfillment, you know, it's to have purpose, you know, and that's what young people are looking for. They're looking for a new goal. You know, they don't want to be carrying on doing what they've always done. They don't want to be running from people with a machete. They don't want to be sitting in prison doing 30 years. Nobody wants to do that. But if you can give them the opportunity and the tools to do that, you know, it's so important. And that's why my faith is such an important thing in what I do at Box Up, because it underpins what I do. You know, one thing that my faith teaches is love your neighbor as yourself. You know, and it's so important to love these young people right now in this scenario, you know, because we've got a generation of unloved kids. And these kids don't feel no love. Their dads are not around. They're in the care system. A lot of these kids, if you really do your research, a lot of these kids are in the care system. You know, like they're living in institutions. Then mum and dad is not around.
So then, in one sense, you could change the idea from them leaving a gang, which is like a dysfunctional family, to coming into the boxing club, which is a surrogate, a replacement for that family. It's just a good one.
A lot of the young people that walk through Box Up, they identify it straight away as this is their home. You know, like they feel love, they feel warmth. You know, they feel like people are there to listen and care. You know, and one thing young people understand is that we're very committed to them. You know, like, and with this whole situation of young people involved in gangs, knife crime, you know, there's not a lot of people are aware of the problem. You know, not a lot of people have a relationship with young people that are in the problem, and not a lot of people are committed to solutions that's going to change these young people's lives. You know, and that's one thing that at Box Up we're very passionate about. We're very passionate about making sure that we're fully aware of what the problem is. If a young person walks through the doors at Box Up, I want to find out, what is your scenario? What's your situation? Who have you got problems with? I want to be aware of who you've got problems with. And I want to have a relationship with you. You know, I want to be an older brother to you. You know what I mean? And then I want to commit to you. You know, and that's And these are like the main ingredients into actually having long-term change with these young people.
I mean, the next thing is education. I mean, 3,900 permanent exclusions in 2021 in academic year, which is devastating. You think of young people coming from the culture that you described, and then they're expelled from school. Where else do they have to go? Now, you've had your Box Up Crime as an award-winning mentoring program, The Real Me. Just you kind of beginning to tell us about that. Just tell us what sort of steps that takes and what that looks like for a young person.
I was a kid that got told, Steve, you're never allowed to step foot in our school again, and that was my first entrance into the roads, because what happened is the school's designed to be a safety net. Education system is a safety net. And when you fall from the safety net of the education system, you fall into the safety net of the roads. And that's what we've got right now. We've got a generation of young people that are in the safety net of the roads. And they're getting their education from the roads. They're learning how to become a man or a woman on the roads, and it's the wrong definition of that, So one thing that we've designed at Box Up over years of like putting it together, the last 9 years we've been working on this, is the real me. And a lot of young people are fake. They live in the fake version of themselves. I was living the fake version of myself. But the second I gave my life to the Lord and I transitioned, I understood who the real me was. So the real me, has 3 modules. Who am I is module 1. How can I is module 2. And I made it is module 3. And we do that in schools. We do that in people referral units. I visit prisons as well. I do a lot of talks in prisons. And it's all around helping young people, young adults really discover who they really are. We've managed to get the curriculum accredited as well. So when we go to schools or when we're doing it in different settings, young people are able to get certifications from it and accreditations from it, which gives them more confidence and gives them more opportunities to become more employable.
Wow. That's pretty
and also
impressive.
Online with the whole education program that we provide as well, we realized that, it's just doing a mentoring program is great, but you need to really go deep-rooted in actually offering young people the best education that they could get. So one thing that we've developed at Box Up is the Box Up School of Excellence, where young people that have been kicked out of school, they get an opportunity to work with Box Up, and we get a lot of referrals into our program, and we've been really we've been really seeing young people, transition, because they're in the safety net of the roads right now, but we're trying to get them back to the safety net that's going to really help them. It's deep-rooted like habits that they've been involved in for years, like habit of you owe me money, this is what I'm going to do, or I've had an argument with you, this is how I'm going to solve it, So it's always about challenging behavior, like really challenging the behavior that they've always had and showing them like this is how you need to be walking right now, this is how you need to behave right now, and you don't do it in a forceful way, you do it in a relational way, They're not really forcing what you think is right on them, but doing that journey with them to actually get there.
Now, another thing that you focus on is music. You have a whole music workshop, and every you talked about subcultures. In one sense, we all live within a subculture, and within that subculture, we have different types of music that reflect that. Within the sort of gang violence, knife crime world, drill music seems to be one of the things that's at the core. Could you just explain to us what is meant by, or what drill music is, and what part it plays within the culture that you described?
Yeah, so drill music originated from Chicago, and it's like a real fast-paced, it's a fast tempo-paced beat, and originally it was music that people play when they're on the way to a drill, and a drill is like on the way to doing like a madness, like probably you're gonna do some sort of like shooting or killing, or you're going to the other side to look for someone that you've got a problem with. So that's where the word drill comes from. Okay. Some artists have used drill for good, in the sense of they're speaking positive on it. And then some artists have used drill to like kind of paint a picture of their lives or what they're going through, the scenario they're going through. And then some artists have really used drill just to glorify the lifestyle that they're living.
Okay.
And the reason why I say it in these kind of three different stages is because there's different people speaking different things on there. Some are talking about their life. Some are glorifying their life.
Yeah.
You know, and the ones that are glorifying their life, what they're doing is they're shaping the culture. They're causing more people. They're increasing the death rate.
So that's the kind of thing you were saying younger kids are beginning to listen to, and it's shaping how they think and then how they act.
You've got kids like listening to a song saying, "I got my ZK on me," you know, and this a kid in year 5
What does that mean?
"I've got my zombie knife on me,"
Okay.
you know, and that kid's now what's that? When that kid hears, "I've got my ZK on me," you know, and I'm looking for an op.
What does that mean?
I'm looking for an enemy. I'm looking for someone to kill. Naturally, that kid is now gonna want a ZK so bad. That kid's gonna be like, he's gonna be saving like all of these little pennies and pounds to buy a ZK because he's hearing about it consistently every single day. He's listening to that, and he's attracted by that. You know, and now the kids continue listening to the music, and he's hearing that that guy violated, that guy disrespected me, so I had to stab him up. Now, what's happening is that music is dictating that child's behavior.
And then the culture.
And then it shapes the culture. Now, that kid grows up from year 5, he's now in year 9. And he's been listening to that every single day. He's now going to get his ZK, and he's now going to go, anyone he's got a problem with, he's going to stab. You know, and this is what I talk about, a contribution to the culture, a negative contribution to the culture. You know, so right now, you know, we're living in a world where these things are glorified. Yeah. You know, so and I have to pick up a lot of that baggage when a kid gets kicked out of school and gets referred to me, you know, because he brought a knife into school. You know, I have to pick up a lot of that baggage when a kid, you know, gets arrested and he's in the youth offender. I get referred to him by the youth offending service, you know, because he stabbed someone. So I do get very passionate about it. I do get very emotional about it. You know, I have to pick up a lot of that baggage, you know, when I have to help fund the funeral for a young person that I had a lot of love for, and now that young person's been murdered. You know, so I pick up a lot. So I'm not just saying it because I'm frustrated by it. I'm saying it because I've seen it firsthand, and I've seen what it does. You know, that is so real. You know, like, so every time I'm talking to young people and they're listening to like that kind of music, you know, I don't allow that music in my gym.
So I want to picture a year 10, 11 kid comes. That's the music they love. They come into your gym or they come into your program. How do you redeem them? Or how do you use music how do you redeem music? How do you redeem drill music? Because you've got a whole music program within Box Up Crime. What's the stages? A young lad comes in, he's got it on his headphones, you're fearing it's going to affect his life. How does your program deal with that?
So when young people walk into our studios are free for them, you know, and we keep it free for them. And we tell them, you can come to our studios every week, you can make music. If you're going to start talking rubbish, if you're going to start lying, if you're going to start saying all of this stuff that is deaf, because you're speaking deaf, you can go and pay to go to another studio and pay £40 an hour. And they don't have that money. So when they come to, they want to have the free studio. So they come to us and they understand that they're here for a reason, they're here for a mission, you know, and not only do they just walk into our studios just to make music, we also make sure that if you're coming to our studio, you're doing our mentoring curriculum. You're doing the real me. Right. You're figuring out who you are. You know, like you're unlocking your real self. You know, and so just like a testimony, we had a young person. His name's Dan. He's been coming to our studios for about a year now, and he came. He recorded a song. We've always educated everyone around us in the studios about making positive songs. You don't have to just talk about stabbing an op to go on the charts. You know, you can talk about some other stuff. You know, so Dan made a nice little song. You know, he put it on TikTok. This all happened in one weekend. He put it on TikTok. He got more than 2 million views. Wow. He got a phone call from Universal, and then they signed him. This is a 16-year-old kid, you know, that's now shaped a positive culture. You know, so he didn't talk about, I'm looking for an op on the op block. He spoke about normal fun things that a 16-year-old will talk about, you know, and he got signed. So we try to encourage young people that you don't have to like listen to the lies of this world. You don't have to allow the devil to inspire death in your music before you get signed. You know, you don't have to do that. You don't have to contribute to the negative culture.
So in one sense, the style of the music stays the same. It's the content that radically changes.
It's the content. And we don't expect young people to walk into our studio and start talking positive stuff. We don't expect that, because that's fake. We're living in the hood, and the environment that they see is they're seeing guns, they're seeing drugs, they're seeing people getting murdered, so they're rapping about that. So we don't tell them, we don't expect them to come in and start just rapping like really, really beautiful things. That's not the case. Yeah. But what we do is we understand that we have to go on a journey with them, you know, and then we have to change their reality. We have to change their content by giving them the right content, you know, and the right content is the right education that they need, you know, is that uplifting, that motivational stuff that's going to change their life. So what happens is the young people now, after they've gone on a journey, their vocabulary changes. You know, the content of what they say changes, you know, because now they've emptied themselves of all the lies that they've been sold over the years. Because I got sold them lies. Like 15-year-old Stephen will be talking of madness. I'll be in the studios doing the same thing because I was full of evil, I was full of death. But when the Lord came into my life, when I met Jesus, you know, like my content changed, my conversation changed. You know, even when I'm talking to some of my friends and they're talking to me about like weird stuff and that, they'll stop themselves and say, no, we can't have this conversation with you, Stephen. Do you get what I mean? Because I've emptied myself out of that. You know, and that's what we do with the young people as well. The young people empty themselves out of all of the negativity that they've observed, because that's what it is. It's observation. You know, they're seeing it in their neighborhoods. They're seeing it in the music that they listen to. So the work we do at Box Up is very, very important. We really need to like journey with these young people to get the best out of them. So when the Lord came into my life, you know, I was emptied from anything that was negative. Like all of the negative content that once used to fill me up, like my desire to just go out and like sell drugs, be involved in like criminal activities, that just left me, you know, like, and I just felt like a much more like better person. I felt like I felt resetted. You know, and that's the word I want to use. I felt resetted. The desires for like the things that used to get me excited just disappeared. Yeah. You know. So
you had a new hunger and a new desire for new things, for different things that were completely different.
Completely different things.
Stephen, what's clear is you are an entrepreneur, but that may not have been the case. Again, some of the research I've done, it's clear that the kind of gang culture is linked, as we've seen, to unemployment, low levels of education, social housing, family breakdown. How does your nurturing misguided entrepreneurial talent, how does that help that? Kids living, they're still going to be living in those environments, but how does your program help them in that?
You know, so when you're living in a deprived community and you're on the streets and you're like, you're naturally just involved in deals every single day. You know, like I remember like I was involved in criminal activities from a very young age, you know, and young people, like I know 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds that are on the streets right now. I know them on the streets right now. You can call it a safeguarding issue. Yes, it is, you know? And you got young people that are exposed to drug dealing, exposed to like robberies from a young age. But what they're doing on the streets is they're learning, they don't realize, but they're learning business. Mm-hmm. You know, like when you're selling drugs, you're learning how to communicate to people. You're learning how to calculate your margins. You're learning how to you're learning how to network. You're learning how to scale it up, go to another block, And when I was living that lifestyle, that was a lot of misguided entrepreneurial talent. But I didn't have no one around me. I didn't have positive elders around me to show me and shape me and say, Stephen, you know what you're doing right there is actually business. You know how to communicate, you know how to network, you know how to calculate your profit margins.
So when a kid comes into your program, they will probably, in one sense, they could think, well, you're telling me two things. You're telling me that all that culture is bad, but now you're telling me actually I've got some good stuff. How do you kind of help redeem them from that? So they see the good, but...
Yeah. So the most important thing you're trying to get that young person to understand, is even though there's a lot of mess that you're involved in right now, let's take the gold out of that mess and let's now transition. Let's transition your mess into a message. Like for myself, like I transitioned my mess into a message, and when you speak to the young people, they don't have confidence. They don't have confidence. They never get nothing right. They failed their GCSEs, some of them, they've been kicked out of school, so they've been used to like a lot of rejection. They've been used to getting a lot of stuff wrong. So when I was doing like crime, I felt motivated because I was getting, for the first time ever, I was getting things right. So that's what kept me going, and with young people right now, like if you can now educate them on what you're doing, yes, this is like wrong, but the way you've naturally picked up this experiential learning, you've been learning by doing, like you don't need to go to Harvard to figure out how to calculate a profit because you've done that naturally. A light bulb moment hits for that young person. Wow, I've done something right. But yes, you've done something wrong, but that skill, the learning I used was right. So what we do with young people is we now encourage them to set up their own businesses. We try and give them like seed funding to experience what that looks like. So why don't you open up a t-shirt printing company, or why don't you open up your own football academy, or why don't you like invest in why don't you invest in developing your own skills, because you've got the raw talent, but you're just doing it in the wrong way. And so that's what our nurturing misguided entrepreneurial talent stands for. Like they've got entrepreneurial talent, but it's misguided. But what would that look like with everything you've done? How you've calculated your profit, how you've done your marketing. How can you apply that to a t-shirt business with an opportunity this is a business plan, this is a template, this is access to funding. So that's what our entrepreneurial program looks like. It's really about really encouraging young people that, yes, what you're doing is wrong, but some of the skills that you're using to do it, you can transfer that, you can transition that into actually living a more sustainable life.
Stephen, we probably need to draw things to a close now. You've opened up a world to many of us that we probably only hear briefly about on News at 10 when they hear yet another kid has been stabbed, another kid has died, another teenager life has been lost. Your story of one of those kids that that you've got to know, you hear the cry of the mother, you then have to raise money for their funeral. I think it was Benjamin Franklin said that justice will never be served until those who are unaffected are as outraged as those who are. Human nature is when we're not affected, we just get on with our own little lives in our own comfort. So what role do we have as people who don't experience the life that you've opened up to us?
The most important thing, is going back to the scriptures and hearing the one scripture that our Lord Jesus said to us. He said, love your neighbor as yourself. Love your neighbor as yourself. And our neighbors are these kids. Our neighbors are these kids on the streets. Our neighbors are these guys doing life. These are our neighbors. We need to love them. How do we love them? We can love them by awareness of their problems. Let's be aware of what they're doing. Let's be aware of their reality. Let's be aware of the things, the barriers that makes them do what they do. Relationships. Let's have real relationships with these people. not partial relationships, not fake relationships, real relationships. Let's really connect with them. You know, let's really get to their level, understand their world, you know, and commitment. You know, let's really figure out a way how we can commit. You know, it might be committing time in mentoring a young person. It might be committing a space in if you've got your own company or your own business, it might be committing an apprenticeship program to this young person. It might be committing funds into helping a young person like pay for like football lessons or boxing lessons if there's none available for them. You know, but whatever it is, some sort of commitment, you know, to that young person goes a long way. You know, and it shouldn't just be like an organization's problem that works with young people in knife crime. It should be everyone's problem. Everyone needs to have a duty of care. Everyone needs to take social responsibility. Because at the end of the day, these are not just kids on the streets. These are children that need help, that want love. You know, so I just want to encourage anyone that's watching this, anyone that's listening to this, you know, let's start being more aware about the problem. Let's have more relationships with people that are involved in the problem. And let's figure out a tangible way that we can commit to the problem.
Stephen, you've opened a whole world that we hear about, now we've really heard about it. So thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Stephen Addison.